This is some questions for Mrs. Fountain's class. Thank you very much for sending me questions. So,
was there ever a time that you felt completely lost and discouraged?
Yes, absolutely yes. There's been many times where I've kind of struggled and felt that lost, that sadness, that pain. And actually not long ago, there was a huge period in my life where I was really struggling with that. And, I think all of us probably experience it in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of things that can kind of sideline our creative lives. Maybe not having enough time for something, if you don't have enough money, getting critiqued by others, or even critique from ourselves, or, there's all these factors that can go into kind of shoving creativity, pushing it in a way that is unpleasant. But for me, the biggest thing that I've found is that unpleasantness, that pain, that difficulty, that is actually totally normal. That is not something to be fearful of. If you feel lost or you're struggling, that's actually just part of the creative process. Creativity is kind of a wave. It kind of ebbs and flows. There's periods where not much is happening, and then there's periods where there's kind of frantic, lots of things happening. And when you think of creativity as a wave, then that point of struggle, that difficult spot at the bottom, it feels different, because then you just know, well, you just keep going. Maybe you schedule things. Maybe you make your artwork a very deliberate part of your life, and you'll get past that slump. You'll get through that downward turn. Ooh, that was quite the crack. And find your way back to just creating without that depression, that sadness. And so yes, have I experienced that? Yes, absolutely. And also, what is the way to get through it? Just keep creating, keep going. You'll find it.
Was there ever a piece that you thought was too outrageous or outlandish to make?
Outrageous, yes, and I don't necessarily make those. I have lots and lots and lots of ideas, and I think it's great to have outlandish ideas or outrageous ideas, because outrageous is great. It helps you push your own envelope a little bit. In terms of outlandish ideas, yes, I've had many, many projects that I felt were kind of too big to even kind of take on. Actually, just in the last couple of years, there's been an artwork made of $10,000 in cash, which I had to take out a loan for. There was a skull chair, which was pretty awesome to make. And then also there was a picture made with 7,000 worms. So all of those were a bit outlandish, but sometimes you gotta go for them. And I've been going for them recently.
Do you struggle to conform your artwork with the changes in art over periods of time?
No, because I tend to just make what I want to make. I do find myself, though, kind of siloed into certain things, but those things I tend to get kind of obsessed with. But actually, the skull chair came from that feeling of being siloed. And, I wasn't somebody who made furniture. I was not a three-dimensional artist. That was kind of some verbiage I had in my head, and so wanting to kind of push out of that, I was like, well, let me make furniture. I've always liked the idea of furniture, so let me make a piece.
Your goodbye art can often veer into performance art. How has this incorporation influenced your art making process?
Well, first of all, I would not characterize what I do as performance art. I know it can come across that way sometimes in video, but really at the end of the day, I'm making something and I'm capturing it. And whether the camera is on or not, that process is basically the same. In terms of the recording of the process, has it affected the actual art that I've made? It definitely has, in a certain sense. There's materials that I know lend themselves more towards being visually pleasing on video. And where I kind of find myself now is I will record some things, but I won't record other things. There's some things that I just, let me just make it and post it, or not even post it, just make it for myself. And I don't feel as though I have that as strong of a need to record everything as I once did.
Is there any advice you give someone who is insecure or uncertain about their art?
There's so many different directions that I feel like I could go with this question, because, of course, it's individual. It depends on what the person who asked the question, your particular reason for asking the question. For me, the first thing that I would recommend people to do is if they're insecure or uncertain about their art is don't share it with anybody. Simply just make it for yourself. Find what it is about the artistic process or just the creative process. Let's remove the word art. Find what you love about the creative process and dig into that and do that for your own enjoyment. Kind of remove yourself from the pressures of a finished product being shared online. Not getting feedback from people, not getting critique from people, not getting enough likes, too many likes, all of that other impact that comes with finishing a project. Just make something for yourself. Find where in that process you enjoy that process and dig into that. And another thing is, I wouldn't be bound by the word art. I think we tend to get so focused sometimes on what is art and what isn't art, and what I created, is it art? And for a long time I actually didn't even really like the word art because it came with these extra pressures, is how I felt. And so for me, it's just like, get rid of the word art, make stuff. Enjoy making what you're making.
You've inspired so many people with your art, but what is the inspiration for your art?
In terms of what inspires my work, for some reason I've actually never liked the word inspiration. I'm a very curious person, and so I'm always kind of just excited about things around me. So I guess you could say that I'm inspired by kind of everything. I love stories, I love science, I love fragmentation, I love the way that the materials interact with each other. I like trying to figure out different ways to manipulate a material. But do those things inspire me? Yes, I guess they do. But also, the word inspiration, I feel, comes with a little more loaded expectations of deep meaning versus, again, I like to make things.
After getting back into art, how long did it take to get used to your new art?
So I was away from art for a few years, and I was really getting back into art probably around maybe 23 years old, which is kind of amazing to say that I was away from it for as long as I was. But my new art, I kind of struggled with it because it didn't fit my idea of what art and creativity was to me. And so I was kind of struggling with it for a long time, but eventually, I'd say a couple of years, I found that kind of art then it had purpose. It felt meaningful in my life. But even still to this day, I tend to be pretty sporadic in the way that I create. I tend to kind of jump around a little frantic. So even today, I still don't really know what my exact style is.
How do you persevere through the long hours it takes to get some of your projects to work?
A couple things. One is I do actually schedule a lot of my projects. I make sure I have time for them. I work on them even if I don't want to. It's not about the single project. I'm not so focused on getting this one project done and then I'm done. It's a continuum. And so it doesn't feel as though I have to persevere in a certain sense. It does feel as though there's a lot of work to do, and sometimes the work is overwhelming, but it's really about just kind of scheduling. And of course, I do have a very obsessive personality. And so once I find something that I kind of get excited about, I tend to go into it full throttle.